Well, thank you so much for being here today. We have a very special guest. Actually, Mauricio, I met him many, many years ago. And a few months ago, we connected again. And I asked him if he could come and talk to my community about film distribution. I mean, it's an honor that you're here, Mauricio, because you have so much experience, 37 years of experience in the industry. You have worked with the biggest studios in Hollywood, and I can say the world, because they're very, very, very powerful. And thank you so much for being here today. And I want you to tell us about you, how do you enter the industry, a little bit about you and how you entered the industry.
First, thank you for the invitation. I really love these kind of experiences in which I can talk to people interested in the distribution work, which is definitely my life. I've been in this distribution area basically since the beginning of my career. And as I always say, I started in this business by accident. I study communication, but my idea was to be journalist in Mexico, and I started writing for a kind of magazine in Mexico City. And due to this collaboration that I have in this magazine, when I was a student, I was starting the university. I went into contact with the different distribution companies in Mexico, and one day I wanted to write about Labyrinth. I went to the offices of Columbia Pictures at that time, now Sony, and I requested some photos of Jennifer Connelly, and basically things of destiny. As I say, by accident, I was offered with a position in the company, and I started this day. Actually, my first film in my career was Labyrinth, because I entered Sony Pictures when they were releasing Labyrinth, and this was my first of almost a 2,000 films that I have released in these 38 years in the industry. As I always say, all my life is related to the release of a movie, and all my references in life are movie releases.
I completely relate to your story, because I can say I also started my career by accident. And I met Eki, that you know Eki, that's my ex-boss in Corazon Films. And I met him in a signed, in an event. It was a Twilight event. That was like the first film. And they brought Robert Pattinson. And my sister was super fan of Twilight Saga, and we had read the books, and we came to Mexico City. I am from the northern Mexico, that it's Torreon is called, and we flew to Mexico City, and I met Eki at that event, and I said, I'm looking for a job, and he was like, okay, we're looking for a marketing assistant. I was working in Corazon Films in 3 days. Like, I had an interview, and then like the next week I was working with them. So that was that was like by accident.
The industry was very different at that time than the industry that we have today. And definitely it was like very common to see these kind of situations in which you were not looking for a job properly, and you started working with a company like this, Corazon in my case, with Columbia Pictures, now Sony Pictures. And basically from that day when I started, I didn't know that I was going to be in this industry basically forever, and that at least in Sony I was 20 years. I worked from this day to 20 years later, when I have an offer from Universal to be the vice president of the new company in Latin America. And basically all my career started there by accident. And well, it's an incredible industry that I enjoy every day.
Yeah, I think once that you taste a little bit, you cannot leave it. I mean, once that you like dip your toes in the water, it's like you go all in. I think this is an industry that you love. I don't know if you can hate, but once that you work there, is like you cannot leave. That's for
At
sure.
least everybody that I know in the industry, all my friends say that once you are in this industry, you never want to leave it, and that's true. Definitely, it's a business. It's an industry that involves you in a special way, in which you are totally attached to the industry, and it's very difficult to leave it.
Yes, it is true. So tell us, what are you doing now?
Well, as I mentioned, all my life was basically devoted to the film distribution. I started with this film Labyrinth, no, which was my first film in the industry, and through the well, to different stages in my life, I worked with different studios. You know, first with Sony, then we took the distribution of Disney. So I released the Sony films, and in Mexico, the office was for both companies, Sony and Disney. So I worked with them in my first stage. And as you know, the studios usually have different deals with other production companies. In the case of Sony, we had always the films of TriStar. In the case of Buena Vista, which was Disney, we had Dimension. We had at this time Touchstone. We had Miramax, which was like the pedigree films on behalf of Disney. And then in Universal, I took the distribution of Warner Brothers. So because Warner in Mexico was distributed by a Mexican company called Videocine, and I coordinated a deal with them in order to take distribution of Warner films. So in Universal Mexico, we took the distribution of Warner, and we had the Universal and Warner films. Universal had a deal with Blumhouse, so I released all the Blumhouse films for almost 15 years. And then Illumination, this animation or studio of animation, started in 2010 with a film called Lorax, and then they had Despicable Me, the Minions, and it was a huge success. So I, in Universal, as the owners in part of Illumination, we had all the animated films that was very successful. Well, all this project was very successful from 2010, well, basically until today. This year was released Despicable Me 4, and it was huge. And well, for the reason, I have worked with the main studios, basically all the Hollywood companies, and at the same time, since they have different distribution deals, I also work with Focus, Working Title, as I say, Blumhouse, and all the studios working with this as part of this studio. So for this reason is that the number of films that I have released in my career is almost 2,000 in theaters, just because it was like basically a an average of a film every week, no, considering that a studio usually has 16 to 17 films to release every year. But if you add the film that they have with the other production companies, well, this can sum up to 50 or 55. And having two studios, well, you have definitely up to 70, 75 films per year. In some cases, you are not releasing all the films that you have because definitely the market has like a special capacity, every market. So the average, at least in the case of the studios in Mexico, is one film per week. And now, since I finished my time with Universal after 15 years, I I want to produce. I am developing projects for production, but and as we were talking before this conversation, the production is a long process and definitely it needs time. And I'm now in the developing stages with different projects, but at the same time, I'm now being a consulting for distribution for distribution projects. Now I'm guiding, working along with some local producers in order to present their projects in distribution here in Mexico in what we call Ficine, in which they require to support Mexican films to be distributed. They require different information about distribution, a plan about distribution, and I'm guiding, working with these projects with these friends in their different projects about distribution.
Can you help us to understand film distribution? Because I'm pretty sure the people who is connected right now are filmmakers. They have a film and they know they need a distribution deal. They know they need to find a distributor. But can you tell us the roadmap from a film? Like once it's picked, what is the process, so they can understand what's going on with their film after it's picked?
Definitely, I think the ideal process would be or is to have a distribution company or a distribution line since the beginning of the film, because basically distribution is part of the complete concept of the film. I definitely think that, and this is what I'm recommending all my friends, all my producer friends now, that the sooner that they can find a distributor along with their projects, definitely is going to be much better. Because if you want to find a distributor once the film is finished, definitely you are going to lose a lot of opportunities. For instance, when you are starting the film or the shooting of the film, definitely you can organize with your distributor an event to invite like press, to invite to make noise about the film, and this is always very important. Actually, I think because this is one of the activities that I love to do when I was working in all these different studios, was to put the local title to the films, because as you know, in my case, working with the Hollywood studios all the time, but I used to receive the films basically with a campaign which was the global campaign, and it's very difficult to change anything in this big blockbuster campaigns, basically you need to only adapt the campaign already done to your different formats in the market. But the art of the campaign is basically the same for every single market. In the case of local films, it's very different, and the process is different because you need to create the posters, the trailer, and definitely, since you're working with the producer since the beginning, you can even recommend the local title, the title for the film, because this is part of the distribution. I definitely think that when you want to release a film that can connect with the audience, you need to be in every detail of the campaign, in every communication of the film. And I definitely think that the first communication is the title of the film. So I definitely think that a film distributor can definitely help a lot with the ideas for the title, for the copy line, for the campaign. For the reason is that a distributor ideally needs to be in the project since the beginning of the project. But this is not what happened, not in Mexico, and not even in US, no, in which only the studios are working in the campaign since the beginning of the projects. Actually, they are announcing the new releases when they have not produced the film yet. But in the independent world, this is very uncommon, but it's ideal, no? That you can have a distributor in a very early stage of your project.
And how I have a question.
No.
How do you find this distributor in a very early stage? Do they give a minimum guarantee, MJ, or it can be a letter? How do you go and say, distributor, I have this film, it's in production, but I would like you to be in? How do you invite them to be part of the project?
Well, I think that in the today's market, I think you don't need to give like an MG as it happened in the past, because now, especially when you want to release a film theatrical, which is of course not in all the cases you need to go to theaters, because it's by far the most expensive window for any content. You can release the film in a platform, in a streaming company, before you can. Well, you could always release the film in television, in cable, in all the different windows that you have after theaters. Because the problem with the theatrical releases is that in every part of the world they are very expensive, and definitely you need to work carefully in your projections, because sometimes, and this happens a lot in the independent world and basically in every market, you need to see which is the cost that you need to invest to release a film in theaters, and which is your estimate that you can obtain in film rental, not box office, because it's different, in order to pay this investment. Because maybe you are going to see that in many cases you need to invest more than the amount that you are going to recoup in film rental for this film in theater. So at the end of the theatrical release, maybe you are going to lose money. So for the reason, it's very important first to work on realistic projections about the potential of your film, and second, definitely you need to decide if for your strategy it's good to be in theaters, or if maybe it's better to release directly in a streaming platform before, or instead of going to theaters. So this is, I think, the key to know which is going to be the distribution process of your film.
I'm curious to know, what is the difference? You've been in the industry for so long, 37 years. Like, I think many things have happened in the industry. So what is different from when you started to now?
Everything. Everything is very different. At first, since the technology, no, because when I started, basically we released 35 millimeter films. No, I don't know you, but definitely I think you saw all these reels, big reels, in which you need to move all these films into the theaters, and logistic was very complicated because every film weighs like 20 kilos, and
Yeah,
you
that's
need
true.
to send
I
just
remember that.
one for one screen.
Eight rolls also, like 8 rolls,
Exactly.
and then what happens is we lost one roll. Where is it?
Or maybe if you don't have the right order of the rolls, but definitely everything was very different. The logistic was very different, and now everything is digital. So now you don't need to send anything physical to the theaters. No, you can send the film in internet, in satellite. No, and this changed the logistic a lot. And even in the marketing aspect, I remember that when I started in the distribution world, basically, at least in the company, we only had two main media for the films, which was open TV, no, which was very expensive, and newspaper ads, no, and that basically our campaigns were newspaper ads, and when you have enough money, you can pay a TV campaign, no, in nationwide television. But this was very unusual only for the big films, and you need to focus your campaign on newspapers. In all this time since the late 80s to our market today, well, definitely then use radio, outdoor was now today is still one of the main media for films, because it worked well. And today you have like different networks and social networks, and everything is different. The way in which you release the film today is totally different the way in which we released the films in the 90s, in the beginning of 2000s. And actually, and I don't know if you are familiar with this, but in the industry, in the world, we had what we call the VPF, virtual print fees,
Yes.
because when the technology moved to the digital one, basically it was very expensive, all the equipment to change the technology of a theater, of a cinema. So exhibitors made the main investment to change the technology. And then during almost 10 years or more, distributors, producers through distributors had to pay all these changes in technology, because in the future, this was going to help the distribution side, the producer side. No, the future is today, in which, well, now the cost of digital content that you send to the theaters, it's like less than $100. And in the past, one of these 35 millimeter films had a cost of $1,000. So definitely the industry the industry is enjoying a lot of savings with this new technology. But in the middle, in these 10 years, basically producers and distributors have to pay this change.
Is it still exist the VPF?
No,
I
no,
remember
because
it doesn't exist anymore, because I did distribution 5 years ago. I think that was 2016, 2016, 17, and they still, you needed to pay still the VPF.
yeah, I think in most of the countries, the territories, the VPF ended at the beginning of 2020, before the pandemic.
Okay.
I think most of the VPF deals in the world ended at that time.
Okay. For those who don't know what's a VPF, is a virtual print fee. And this is when the exhibitors decided to become digital and be really modern. They said, okay, we're gonna buy the projectors, we're gonna put it in our cinemas, and you're gonna pay for it. Like, you distributors and producers, you're gonna pay for it, and you're gonna give us the fee, because you want to attract the people to the cinema. So what this happened is the print, that it wasn't at 35 millimeter anymore, now was a digital print that was like a disc that you gave to the film theater, and then they said, okay, then you have to pay the fee. So then that kind of even it out, because the DCP wasn't expensive, but then the fee was expensive. So the four distributors, I don't think you didn't see the change as much.
Yeah, definitely. I think this was a good explanation, but in general, the VPF was a pay that the distributors need to make on behalf of the producers, on behalf of the film, due to the technology, because as I mentioned before, the benefits of the technology basically represent a lot of reduction in the cost of the distributors. No, as I mentioned, a 35 millimeter print costed $1,000, and a digital version of the film is costing less than $100. So this benefit in the cost of the content in the theaters is definitely a benefit to the distributor.
So it did help.
Exactly. So what the exhibitors did is that they had all the investment in the equipment, but they say, if the benefit is for you during X time, no, and in this case it was around from 7 to 11 years, depending the theater, depending the country, depending the market. They analyzed this type of investment that they had to make when they changed to the digital equipment, and they say, well, you were paying $1,000 for a 35 millimeter print. Now you're going to pay, because now I have changed my equipment in the theater and it's digital. Now you're going to change $100, but in BPF, so we can amortize or recoup part of our investment, you're going to pay $700 or $800. So even in this case, you were already saving like $100 in comparison to the 35 millimeter era. No, because you were paying like $700 of BPF plus $100 of the delivery of the content to the cinema. So they were charging this BPF for 7 years, and in these years they were recouping the cost that they had invested in the equipment. And after this period, when the deals ended, well, definitely, which is today, the distributors and the producers can enjoy of the low cost of the delivery of the content to the theaters. This is like the concept and the spirit of the BPF that was part of this industry for almost a decade.
So the next question, changing the subject. How do you choose the films you work with?
Well, definitely in my case today, I selected the film that I'm working with now based on the potential that they can have for the distribution exploitation. Maybe, and I don't know if you're going to like that I used to work exploitation, but finally that's the idea. And some of the films that I'm distributing now are not going to be released in theaters. This is very important because, as I said before, the theatrical window is a very expensive window. So not all the films need to go to theaters. So in some of the projects that I'm having now, basically I have already made my projections, and in some cases it was better for the film to go directly with the streaming company and not going to theaters. So I'm selecting now the films that I'm working with, basically for the potential that they can have, because they are from different genres, from different producers, but I need to see that they can connect with the local audience, with the market. As I mentioned, they need to make sense financially, because if you invest a lot in the release of film and you have not worked on these projections, you can lose a lot of money, and definitely this is not the idea. The idea is that all needs to make financial sense in every project. And well, I am receiving projects from local companies that, well, the ones that want to find distribution, and I screen the films, and definitely I can see if the film can be financially viable in the market today.
And just to finish this talk with you, what can you advise filmmakers who are looking to work with a distributor?
Well, definitely, first, I think they need to know the market. I think this is the most important. You need to know the market as a producer or as a filmmaker. It's very important that you know the market in which you are, because definitely every market is different, and you need to know which is the content that is working well in your market. You need to know the players. You need to know who are the local distributors who can release your film. You need to know which are the distribution players in the market, starting from the distributors of the big studios until the independent ones. You need to know who is releasing like independent films in a proper way, dedicating or devoting the time and attention to these independent films. Because I think in each market you can find different options for distribution, but you need to know who can really take care of your content.
Perfect. We have some questions here. I'm going to choose only one because we are out of time, but I found this one, I think is interesting. How do you estimate streamers' buying numbers?
It's very different. I think this is basically with information about which is the license. Well, the cost of the licenses that the streaming companies are paying in the market. And for this, but you need first to work with them to know what or how much they are paying for X product, how much they are paying for independent films, or if you don't have maybe the experience of selling to these streaming companies, definitely it's very important to have information of how much they are paying for licenses to independent product, to other content in the market. Because in this case, all is with comparison. No, if you know that they are paying, I don't know, $50,000 or $100,000 to an independent film, basically you can negotiate starting with this. But it's very important that you have information about your market, and since of course this information is not public, you need to be or you need to be just in communication with maybe another producer, a friend, or someone that has this experience of working with a streamer, and get enough information to see in which level you need to start negotiation with them. First, you need to start with creating the interest of the streamer in your product.
I think everything you said, having the film production, having the film distributor from the beginning is the same I said with marketing. It's like having the marketing from the beginning, promoting your film, as you just said it, like having this relationship with the streamer, but also knowing your product, knowing your film, having an audience. It's like if you come with an audience already, if you know who is your target, you're already making, like, doing marketing. People wants to see it. It's easier to sell it. It's easier for streamers and distributors. Like, oh, okay, you already have like some numbers that this is interesting. They don't have to do all the work.
Definitely, for the reason I said that it's important to have a distribution company since the beginning, because basically I see a distribution company as a partner of the producer, because this distribution company, at least in the way I see the distribution business, it's like a 360 service company that can be an ally, a partner of the producer, and the distribution company is going to help since the beginning with the marketing area, no? As I mentioned, with all the events that you need to organize in order to promote the film before the shooting of the film, since the selection of the title for the film, all these marketing aspects. And at the same time, if you already have a distribution company since the beginning, this company definitely should be the company that is going to negotiate and to execute all the plan to go to theaters if this is the idea. And at the same time, this company needs to be also an aggregator, no, in this relation with the producers and the streaming companies. Definitely, I think this is like the arc complete that a distribution company needs to have with the content, with the film, with the producer.
Thank you so much. We have run out of time. It was really nice talking to you, but now we have to say goodbye